cat sees a box, has to rub herself on the box. I don't know, she just loves to do that. But anyways, I'm gonna talk a little bit about some pros and cons of full-time reselling. So in this video, I'm gonna kind of just work as I'm shipping. We're gonna talk on the screen. I will put what the item sold for, and I will show you a little bit of what the items are selling for. But we're gonna kind of focus more on the talking points and stuff like that, just because I get super distracted, honestly. So, and I really like these videos. The first thing to sell was this Maeve by Anthropologie. This is just a color block sweater, super cute. We're gonna start with some pros, because we all want to start with the good, positive things about full-time reselling, because why not? So let me make sure this is on. Okay, it's on. So probably the biggest pro in my personal opinion is the flexibility. You can't really beat the flexibility when it comes to full-time reselling. You are kind of in charge of your own schedule, if you think about it. Like, if you want to work one day, you can work one day. If you want to rest one day, you can rest one day. So you have the ability to kind of do whatever you want in your business. As long as you have some sort of structure, you can really tailor your schedule to whatever you want. And that is super appealing to a lot of people. You know, it's way different than coming from a, like, let's say 9-to-5 job, because that's what I did previously before this role. I mean, I've worked so many different positions. I've worked retail, I've worked fast food, I've worked office jobs. But when you're coming from a very structured job, let's say a 9-to-5, it's almost like super exciting, because it's like, you're like, wow, I have all this time in the world, and I can do so many things with my time and so many different opportunities to basically create the lifestyle that I want to create. And I would say that is definitely a pro. You know, there's not a lot of jobs out there where you can pretty much do that. So yeah, next thing to sell, this is a really cool find. So I know I talk a lot about Lulus and I kind of harp on it a lot, but you know, sometimes it can still perform decent for me. So it just kind of depends on the print, the size, and things like that. I don't really pick it up otherwise unless it's at the bins, but this is a Lulu's dress. Very hard to see, but it's super cute, honestly, guys. So it's kind of got a little bit of really cute print in the front, and then it's laced in the back. So the next, I would say, pro is honestly your income. So your income potential with reselling, especially full-time, is you can make it whatever you want it to be. Honestly, the more you work, sometimes the more money you can make, and I'll kind of talk about that later, because I think that with all these pros, there's also negatives that come with it, but I try to make my negatives different from my pros. So your earning potential can be what you make it. So in a traditional job, you usually have a set salary. Sometimes you have the option to have like bonuses. Let's not do that on the screen. Yeah, don't get fussy with me. So you have the option to have bonuses, but usually you kind of agree to a set salary, set pay, and you work for that amount, I guess you could say. So with reselling, 1 month can be amazing. You could be like, oh wow, I made $5,000 1 month. And then you're like, oh, if I work a little bit harder, I can make more money than that, So you really have the option to make a lot more money, and you're not really capped. So you can essentially, the more work you put in, the more opportunity you have to grow that income, I guess you could say. Next thing to sell, this was a Jenny Kane sweater. Guys, I was floored when I found this. Like, absolutely, I was so excited. I every time I find something good, I'm like, oh gosh, I have to hide it, and then I like want to run out of the store because I'm just so excited. But so the next one is creative freedom. So what I mean by that is you are kind of the pilot. You are the one in control. You are the one that can make changes. You can change your business model if you want to. You can change how much you work, how much you source. Like, you have so much creative freedom. And in a traditional job, you know, sometimes I've had this in my previous roles where some companies are open to, you know, changing things up and switching things up, but for the majority, that creative freedom is kind of capped. Usually you have a boss, usually you have like somebody who oversees those decisions. So, you know, you may have a good idea about something you want to change, but for the most part, you are capped with your freedom, your creative freedom. Yeah, so like I was saying, creative freedom, super great, super nice to have. Especially when you're coming from a traditional job, you know. There's a lot of structure in traditional jobs, and I'm not knocking that. I think structure is honestly a phenomenal thing, but it's a lot different when you're owning your own business. Next thing to sell is, these were another great sale. These are the Baggy Dad jeans. And these sold for, I think, around $50 on Poshmark. And I got these at the bins. So they were just laying on top of the bin. And I'm like, yep, I'm going to pick these up because I know they'll sell. The next thing I would say is a pro is your sense of ownership. So like I was saying before, with full-time reselling, you are kind of the pilot. You are the man in charge, I would say, or woman in charge, I should say. You are the person in charge. You are making all your decisions. You are making all of you're doing whatever you want to do for your business. And while I think that is a pro, sometimes I guess that could be a con, because it could lead to decision fatigue, and just having too many things to, you know, be in charge of can be overwhelming for some people. But I think for the mass majority of people, when you are coming from a very traditional job and you are going to something with so much freedom and flexibility, it's very appealing, because in a traditional job, a lot of things that, like, we are capped in, I guess, a lot of things that we can do as people. You know, we can't just decide to change something if it's not working out. You know, that's kind of the boss's job, sorry, or the owner. But if you're owning your own company, you can say, oh, I don't think this is really working for me, and you can change it like that. You can make a decision that you want to change something, and you can follow through with it. And that is so, so powerful, because we can figure out what's working and what's not working. And we don't have to dilly-dally and wait so long for changes. We can just make them. And that is something I truly love about reselling and having my own business, is because I'm the pilot. I get to make those decisions, and I don't have to run them by anybody else. And same for you. You can make whatever decision you want for your reselling business, as long as it's, you know, obviously a good decision. But yeah, you can change things up. You can decide if you want to go to the bins or Goodwill outlet or not go there anymore. You can decide to pay up more for inventory. You can decide to source more, source less. The sky's the limit. You can do what you want with your business. All right, so let's talk about the cons, because that, to me, I personally feel, in my personal opinion, has changed a lot over the years with full-time reselling. I used to be that type of person that was gung-ho for full-time reselling, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do whatever I can to get to that level. And now, being at that level, I have changed my opinion, and I am more on the side of not being a full-time reseller. And I'm gonna talk a lot about the cons of it, because I think that I wanna be as transparent as possible. And that's kind of why I wanted to make the video. We are going to move to the next sale. So, this actually sold today, which is Monday. So, this is a little Disneyland. It's like a holiday one. It has a little bit of spots on it, so did sell a little bit less, I think for $28, but hey, I got this at the bins. I'm okay with that. So I would say the first con, and probably the biggest con to full-time reselling, is the income instability. And like I said earlier, yes, the more work you put into reselling, generally the more you get out of it, but that's not always true. And the reason I think this is because there are so many other factors that play into your sales when it comes to reselling. You know, are platforms changing things? Is a demand for an item used to be there but no longer there? Is there more people doing reselling? There's a lot of factors that go into reselling that I don't think your sales are just a reflection of your input into the business. That's my personal belief. Everyone's welcome for their own opinion, but that's what I truly believe. You may be working really, really hard, and you may be sourcing a lot, listing quality items, but your sales are not reflecting that, you know, and that is a con. Unfortunately, with reselling, and I am a firm believer, I don't care what anybody says. I'm not here to say anybody's wrong when they say this, but fluctuations with sales and reselling will always be there. And I stand by that, because even if you are very disciplined, you do your listings and dedications, and you know, you just get your stuff done and you get your listings done, you're still gonna have times when sales are slow. It's just a part of the business, and it's one thing I wish I really, really took into consideration before going full-time, is just understanding that and just honestly saving more for the months that were good and saving for those weeks that are bad, because your sales are going to fluctuate. And I don't think that's a reflection of you as a person sourcing. You know, I think it's just the way the market is, and like I said, all those other factors. So I would say that's definitely a con with reselling. Alrighty, so next sale, this is a bundle, and like I always say, I never really get bundles, but I was super excited. She came in and bundled 4 things, and I have a bundle discount where I offer 15% off of a bundle of 3 or more, and she bundled it all. She got the discount, and then she bought it full price, which never happened. So I am so grateful. I think it sold for around $152. So, and this was a day where I was like, oh gosh, I'm so stressed about sales. And then I look on my phone and I'm like, yes, it was just so amazing. So first thing to sell in the bundle was this Anthropologie like cardigan sweater. It has really cute hearts. I hope this fits in this box. So next thing to sell was that Urban Outfitters really cute floral dress. So we're gonna pop that guy in. Ooh, this is gonna be a tight fit. Next thing to sell was this vintage It's like a button down, but it has this really cool wolf print. I've honestly had everything in here for a little bit of time. Only thing I haven't is that Anthropology cardigan. Next or last thing is these airy like pull-on sweatpants. All right, so I just weighed this and it's 4.8 pounds. So I scored and I don't have to get a new, because I just hate having to pay for a bigger box. So I just have 2 more sales to show you. So the next sale, this is such a great brand to be on the lookout. Every time I pick it up, it sells so quickly and so fast. This is Indian Collection Emerson Fry, and this I believe sold for $42 on Poshmark. I picked it up for like $3 at my local or my regular thrift store. So but the next con is pressure to constantly buy. And I have really experienced this a lot. As I've shared with you guys, this is just something that has really kind of pushed me out of full-time reselling, if I'm honest with you guys. Oops, ran out of tape. But it is just something that it really takes a lot of the fun out of reselling for me. In the beginning, reselling was very much a hobby, and I literally enjoyed every aspect of reselling. I loved going to the thrift store, I loved packaging, finding things, bringing them home, taking the pictures. But as I kind of transitioned into full-time reselling, a lot of that became more of a grind. And I understand that I need to look at it as a job, but for me personally, I always loved reselling as a hobby, and I really want to get back to that. This is a passion of mine, and I love sharing it with you guys. I love bringing you guys along on the journey and just sharing my experience with you. But what I have found is full-time reselling, just that pressure to constantly buy and constantly list and source, it does weigh on you after a while. So that is something to consider, and I truly think is a con, because not every day, I truly don't believe this, not every day I feel motivated to go to the thrift store, or do I want to go find stuff or go to the bins. Like, I'm not motivated every day to go. And yes, I know motivation is fleeting, but that's just my personal opinion. Not every day do I want to have to go do these things. I want it to be more of a fun experience and a fun time, something that I can use to just be as a hobby again, if that makes sense. The next con I would say is there are no benefits. Now, with this position, you do have the flexibility and the freedom, but it does come with a caveat. There are no benefits, like there's no time off. There is no vacation time. There's no time when you're sick. There is no 401k or health benefits. All of that now is reliant on you as a business owner. You are in charge of your own 401k, and honestly, that's stressful. You are in charge of your own health insurance. That is very expensive if you don't have it through an employer, or if you have to buy it yourself. There is no time off. So if you do take time off, you always have to kind of work ahead to allow for that time off. So you can't just say, oh, I'm going to take time off and not really do anything for your business. I mean, you can, but your income will drastically fluctuate with that. So you have to understand that the benefits that you get with either a part-time job, a full-time job, whatever it may be, that stability and having those things is pretty valuable. And before, I would have told you, oh, I don't really worry about that. But as I get older, those things are important. You know, having retirement is important for me. Having ability to take time off and vacation time is important. Sick time. You know, you don't get short-term disability. Something happens, and what if you like break your leg or something, or your arm, you know, like you don't have those benefits to cushion for that, you know, full-time reseller position. Those things are important, and it just depends on you as a person. But to me, those things are very important, and those are things that I truly, truly miss. Oh, you got an itch. Truly miss about having a job or a full-time job. Last thing to sell is, if you saw my little vlog, you would have saw that I just picked up these Maeve Colette pants. Guys, these are, every time I find them, I always pick them up because they are such a good style pant, and they always sell within a week of being listed. So I'm so happy. This is a size 18, and these sold, I believe, on eBay for about $60, I think. So excellent, excellent sale. Which leads me to my last point, con. So I would say another con for me personally is the platform stresses. So unfortunately, we as resellers are, for the most part, dependent on platforms. Now, you can sell at markets, you can sell at flea markets, and you're not really dependent on platforms or anything per se to that, but you still are dependent on, maybe how busy those tend to be or anything like that. But for the most part, we all can experience stresses from platforms. Platforms changes. I know Poshmark just had a change about relisting and delisting. I don't know much about it, so I'm not really going to talk too much on it, but they make changes all the time. eBay, their platform is, they have their own issues, but, all platforms have their issues, and we experience stress from them. So that is a huge con. And I wish I thought more about it, is because these platforms, they are businesses. They are their own businesses. Yes, they provide platforms for us to sell on, but at the end of the day, they are for-profit businesses. They have to make money. So they make these changes that we unfortunately have to, we have to flow with it, or, we either don't sell on there anymore or whatever that may be, but we are at the mercy of them if you think about it. So that is a huge stress to me. They have made so many changes over the last, years that I have sold on each platform, and it becomes stressful. They, Poshmark in particular, they're always vague when they have a new change. And they create such a panic that it's just so unnecessary, in my opinion. Like, if they were just transparent about their messaging, like, I'm all for if they want to make changes, that's fine with me. But, be transparent. The more information you can give somebody, the less anxiety you give another person. And I think that these platforms make money off not just the buyers, but they make money off the sellers as well too. So in my opinion, they should be caring about the sellers just as much as the buyers. That's my personal opinion, but I won't get too much into that. But we are dependent, and they can cause a lot of stress. Over the years, they've caused me a lot of stress, and I'm sure they have caused you a lot of stress. That is basically my pros and cons to full-time reselling. Let me know some of your pros and cons with reselling. I would love to know, and I'm sure other people would love to know as well. So thank you guys so much for watching the video, and I will catch you in the next one. Okay, bye.